I'm Lieutenant Commander Reese Karlo, and this is the uncut story of how I clawed out of my own funeral, turned a ruined farmhouse into a kill zone, and hunted the men who tried to erase me. Encrypted logs, paid contractors, and they shot me in the chest at point-blank range, straight through the vest, center mass, and laughed over the radio while I bled in a burned-out farmhouse. They snapped pictures of my body, called it confirmation, and moved on, certain they'd erased me. But the thing about shooting a combat officer in the heart is, you better be sure that heart actually stops. Mine didn't. I'm Lieutenant Commander Reese Karlo, Special Operations, NATO Task Group, call sign Kilo 1. And before I tell you how I turned my own funeral into their nightmare, I need to take you back to the day the convoy rolled through the Vasselin Heights. That morning, I knew something was off. The air felt too clean. The silence stretched too long. The mountains outside Vostrad Ridge had seen every kind of war, changed flags more times than anyone could count. A sniper's dream, a commander's worst chessboard. We were supposed to be running a routine patrol with our Polish allies. But I'd seen routine die before. It smelled like this. Our convoy was 8 vehicles deep, SEALs, GROM operatives, and a few local contractors, tagging along with spotless uniforms and twitchy gear. Too clean. Too quiet. I stood next to our lead MRAV, watching one of the contractors prep a drone with hands that didn't belong to someone used to field work. Chief Mathis, my second, joined me. His square jaw was clenched tighter than usual. "You think it's weird they're leading with a drone instead of reconnaissance?" he asked. "Not weird," I said. "Suspicious. Still not convinced about these guys?" I nodded toward the contractor fiddling with his case. His accent's Philly, but he's wearing a check patch. And earlier, he called a magazine a clip. Mathis smirked. "Only rookies and posers do that." The contractor, Reed, I think his name was, approached. "Drones are live, ma'am. We've got full uplink." "You run this path before?" I asked, watching his reaction. "Yeah, twice. Quiet both times." "Funny. Intel said the last group got nailed by IEDs in this very sector." He didn't blink. "Then maybe Intel was wrong." "Maybe. But instincts like mine don't trust maybes." We rolled out. I climbed into the lead MRAV, my rifle resting across my lap. Mathis rode shotgun, his foot tapping in a rhythm I'd learned to read. We were stretched too thin on that mountain road. The kind of stretch that makes you a target. The drone buzzed somewhere above us. Silent, scanning. And then came the lull. 20 minutes of eerie quiet. No birds. No dogs. No farmers. Just dust, diesel, and the low hum of dread. We hit the curve of a switchback when it happened. The lead MRAV exploded into the air. 1 second, it was there. The next, it was twisted metal and screaming flame. IED. Contact front. Mathis shouted, already dragging our gunner into position. Rounds lit the ridgeline, controlled volleys, not panic fire. They sealed every escape like they'd rehearsed it. We returned fire, suppressing with our 50 calories, but I caught sight of something worse. 3 of the contractors were retreating. 1 even dropped his rifle. "Mathis." Contractors pulling back. "Mark them." "Copy," he barked, adjusting fire. I kicked open my door and dropped behind the wheel well. The blast wave had cracked my spine against the seat, but I was moving. Ahead, one of my guys, Corporal Jensen, lay bleeding, hit bad in the thigh. I pulled him into cover, gauze pressed hard. "Stay with me, soldier." Then I felt it. A punch to the chest. A blast that folded me like a rag doll. The round had hit my plate, but drove through like a truck. My vision blurred, ears rang. My last clear thought was Mathis's voice shouting, "Commander down." I tasted blood. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. My fingers clawed at my vest. The ceramic plate was shattered, ribs broken, lung likely punctured. Pain pulsed through me like fire with every heartbeat. And over it all, I heard laughter. From the ridge. They thought I was dead. Maybe I should have been. But my heart didn't get the memo. I don't remember hitting the ground. Just the sensation of gravity giving up on me. I lay there in the dirt, blood pooling beneath my back. Each breath came with a hiss, fire tearing through my ribs. The world narrowed into the fractured blue sky above and the smell of dust, smoke, and burning fuel. My vest had stopped the round, barely. But it had cracked the trauma plate and sent bone fragments into my chest. Breathing hurt. Moving hurt. Everything hurt. But I wasn't dead. A voice echoed above me, closer now. Primary target neutralized. Footsteps scraped gravel. Two silhouettes moved toward me. I let my head roll to the side, limp. I barely stirred the dust with my breath. Playing dead. The oldest trick in the book. One of them knelt beside me, masked, rifle slung low. No heartbeat. We're good. Bag her kit, and let's go? A radio crackled. Copy. Leave the body. We'll burn it with the others. Make it look like militia work. I heard the click of a camera. A plastic shutter. They were staging my death. As he tugged at my vest straps, pain rippled through my chest, but I didn't move. Not yet. Not until I had a plan. Not until I had blood to spare. They didn't notice the slow rhythm of my pulse, steady and low, the kind only survivors have. I heard my father's voice again, during drown-proofing week at Annapolis. You're not dead until you decide to stop fighting. Then they dragged me, boots grinding, hands under my arms, hauling me like cargo. I let my limbs flop. My vest caught on rocks. I gritted through the agony. I kept count of every step. 27 paces, northeast angle. Over the ridge, into what used to be a farmhouse. What was left of it, anyway? Half walls, no roof. Charred beams hanging like broken bones. She's lighter than I thought, one of them said. How the hell did this one lead a team? Doesn't matter. She's done. We got the shot. They dumped me on the floor. Dust kicked up around my face. I felt something under my back, splintered boards, cold stone. She doesn't even look dead, one of them muttered. She is. Nobody survives a heart shot. Except I had. And when the one called Reed entered, I knew my suspicions had been right. He wasn't just a contractor. He was command adjacent. Inside track. Betrayer. She saw the drone feed, he said. She knows too much. So we erase her. She was carrying the Balkan files. If she's dead, so is the evidence. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't about a convoy ambush. It wasn't about a lucky shot. This was a hit. Clean, organized, sanctioned. And I was the insurance policy they wanted burned. She ditched her body cam, one of them said. Good. No footage. No testimony. When she bleeds out, we torch the place and vanish. Then Reed leaned close. Close enough for me to smell the nicotine on his breath. Bulletproof's not heartproof, he whispered. Too bad. You look like you could survive anything. He stood. Finish it. Burn everything. The boots moved away. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. Then I opened my eyes. Barely. A shaft of light broke through a shattered rafter above me, dust dancing in the beam. My chest screamed, but I forced a breath. Shallow. Controlled. I wasn't dead. Not yet. And if they came back, they'd learn just how alive I still was. They left me alone in that ruined farmhouse, assuming I was done bleeding. That was their first mistake. I moved like a corpse easing out of rigor, just enough to shift onto my side. Pain tore through my ribs. My breath hitched, but I was alive. And alive meant options. The floor under me was warped, boards blackened from old fire damage. I scanned with my fingers, splinters, nails, broken glass, and then, under a collapsed beam, something metal. A rifle. Unloaded. But a magazine hung loose from its sling. Someone sloppy had dropped their weapon before the burn. God bless laziness. I checked the chamber. Empty. Slid the mag into place. Click. Breath in. Breath out. That steady drum in my chest, slow but present. I was running on adrenaline and habit. Footsteps outside. 2 of them. Laughing. She's probably already gone. Bled out like a stuck pig. Wrap her up. Dump the body. Light the place. Let the smoke tell the story. One entered through the back. Rifle slung, radio on his shoulder, cocky posture. Didn't even look at the ground. Didn't see the trail of blood I'd left. Deliberate. Misleading. He turned to grab his gear bag. I rose. Half crawl, half stagger. Pain flared like lightning behind my eyes. But I was already moving. Magazine locked. Slide racked. First shot. Base of the skull. Instant. Second guy spun at the sound. Too slow. Second shot. Clavicle. Third head. Both men dropped before the dust had time to settle. I stood there, bleeding and breathless, listening to the silence. Then the enemy radio on the second man's chest crackled to life. Confirm execution. Where's the photo? I pressed the button. This is Karlo, I said, voice low and steady. You shot me in the chest. You should have aimed higher. Silence on the other end. No jokes now. No victory laughs. Just static, and then panic. I didn't wait. Stripped the dead man's gear. Fresh magazines. Sidearm. Knife. Flashbang. Half-empty medkit. 2 painkillers. Crushed and swallowed raw. Not enough to fix anything. Just enough to keep me upright. I touched the shattered ceramic plate on my vest. The blood had soaked through, but the trident badge still gleamed faintly under the dust. Still intact. I wasn't done. I was just getting started. The farmhouse was falling apart, but that made it better. Every broken board, every collapsed wall, it all had potential. They thought they dragged me into a grave. I was about to turn it into a coffin for them. I moved like a machine fueled by spite. Each step a negotiation between pain and necessity. Every breath a gamble. My body was wrecked, but my mind? My mind had gone cold. I barricaded the front door with a broken beam, tied it to a grenade pin with paracord. Crude, but effective. Anyone forced their way in would take the blast to the chest. The stairwell? Rigged it with a tripwire and a flashbang inside a rusted can. Non-lethal, but disorienting. I didn't need to kill them all at once. I needed confusion. I needed time. Upstairs, or what passed for upstairs, was a collapsed loft. I dragged myself to the edge of it, found a narrow slit in the wall facing the courtyard. Perfect. I set up my rifle there, muzzle resting on a busted shutter. From this angle, I could see the path leading in. I could pick targets. Control fear. The radio came alive again. Team 3's not reporting in. No visual on the target body. Repeat. Confirm body status. Another voice answered, uncertain. She's dead. We shot her. Chest wound. No one survives that. I smiled through gritted teeth. I picked up the mic. This is Karlo. Told you already. Next time, aim higher. 5 seconds of silence. Then chaos. She's alive. Get to the farmhouse. Sweep it. Now. Perfect. I tossed the radio into the far corner. Let them chase echoes while I prepared the real welcome. The first man came through the window. Quiet. Knife out. No comms. I put a round through his temple before his boots hit the floor. The door trap triggered a moment later. Grenade popped. Wood splintered. Second guy slammed into the wall and didn't get back up. Their radio screamed, Team 4, report. I keyed it one last time from my perch. Down 2. Request immediate reinforcements. Then I added, cold as ice. I'm still here. That was when I heard the loudspeaker outside. Lieutenant Karlo, you're wounded. Surrounded. No escape. Last chance to surrender. I didn't answer. Instead, I tossed a flare into the courtyard, blinding red bloom. Then I waited for the shape, trying to flank right. He appeared. I fired once. Clean throat shot. A fourth ran for cover. I let him go. Fear travels faster than bullets. Up in the rafters, I reset my sights. They'd turned a kill box into a trap, and I held the trigger. Silence fell again, thick and wrong. The kind that never lasts. Then, crack. A shot whistled past my head and punched into the beam inches above me, showering me with splinters. Too close. Too accurate. I dropped flat, chest screaming, breath caught in my throat. That wasn't one of the panicked contractors outside. This was someone else, patient, trained. A marksman. I reached for the enemy radio and cycled the frequency. Static hissed. Then a new voice came through. Calm. Confident. Too confident. You're clever, he said. Farmhouse traps. Fake death. Radio games. Seen it all before. I didn't answer. I don't shout. I don't rush. And I don't miss twice. That ego disguised as respect. I knew the type. The voice of a man who killed from a distance because he liked control. Because he thought that made him superior. I thumbed the mic. I'm not like the ones you killed, I said. Let's see what happens when neither of us misses. A low chuckle came through. Then his name, Victor Cass. Former Finnish Special Forces. Now I shoot for wealthier clients. You? Lieutenant Commander Reese Karlo. United States Navy. Special Warfare. Silence again. Then, iron veins. I froze. He already had a nickname for me. That meant he'd been briefed. They expected me here. Expected this to go differently. He added, I've got you boxed in, Commander. I moved slowly, staying out of his scope's line. I took a shard of broken car glass from the floor and angled it toward the north ridge. 200 meters out, just above the tree-line, movement. A silhouette between 2 pines. Long barrel. Suppressed. No muzzle flash. No sound. But he was there. And he was waiting. I couldn't outshoot him from here. But I could outwalk him. I slipped down through the side hole in the farmhouse. Low, quiet, every movement a test of will. My body protested. My chest felt like it held molten glass. I didn't care. I moved like smoke through the ruins. Ghost walking. Victor thought he had me trapped. He didn't realize. I was already behind him. The Vaseline ridge sloped like a jagged scar behind the farmhouse. Dried-out creek beds and crumbling stone walls offered just enough cover. And I used every inch of it. Victor Cass didn't know I was out. Didn't know I was already climbing. Each step was war. My ribs screamed. My lung wheezed. But my legs remembered how to move even when the body begged to stop. I hugged the shadows, circling wide, keeping low. Every few meters, I stopped and listened. Twice I heard enemy voices on the radio, still convinced I was inside that farmhouse, still chasing ghosts. I smiled grimly. Let them. I reached the base of the ridge, 50 meters below his perch. Then I waited. Victor was patient. So was I? The wind shifted. A pine branch rustled. I caught the whisper of his movement, adjusting his aim. That was my moment. I climbed fast, silent, staying low to the ground. My boots barely touched soil. 30 meters. 10. He was perched between two trees, kneeling behind a fallen log, rifle rested against the bark. I saw the shape of him as I crested the slope. Helmet, scope, silhouette tight against the foliage. He was exhaling, preparing for his next shot. I rose like a ghost from the earth. Brought my rifle up. Fired once, center mass. The round slammed into his torso, dropping him backward into the tree. His armor caught it, but it knocked the wind out of him. He fumbled for his sidearm. I was already moving. Second shot, upper thigh. He screamed. I stepped over the log, kicked his rifle down the slope. He tried to crawl, one hand reaching, eyes wide with disbelief. How, he rasped. I aimed my rifle at his chest. I moved, I said. He tried to grin, blood running from the corner of his mouth. You're not supposed to be alive. I tilted my head. That's the problem with shooting someone in the chest, I said. You assume you hit the heart. Then I pulled the trigger. One clean shot. Victor Cass, the man who never missed twice, didn't even get the chance. The silence after Cass went down wasn't peace. It was proof. Proof that the man who never missed was mortal. Proof that I was still standing. Still fighting. I grabbed his sidearm, slung his sniper rifle across my back. Then I checked his pack. Clean gear. Military precision. And tucked inside a pouch, encrypted comms, high tier. Private network. I turned the radio back to the main enemy channel. Static. Then a voice, agitated. Sniper team, status? Cass, report. I keyed the mic. This is Karlo. Pause. The kind of pause that weighs 1,000 pounds. Negative visual. Came a shaken voice. Sweep the ridge. I laughed once. Sharp, bitter. I was done hiding. I set a flare on Cass's body, lit it, and let the smoke rise. Then I moved. Back down the slope, broken and bleeding, but fueled by fire. The sniper rifle slowed me down, but I carried it anyway. A trophy. By the time I reached the farmhouse again, the rest had scattered. Their radio chatter was chaos, screams, arguments, leaders gone dark. I was no longer a target. I was a legend forming in real time. They didn't know where I'd strike next. And that was enough. I keyed the beacon on my belt. Emergency exfil signal, encrypted pulse. Only to be used in no-fail situations. This was one. 15 minutes later, I heard it, the chop of blades. A blacked-out helicopter descended over the ridge, stirring mist and dust like the forest itself was reacting to my survival. I stood in the clearing, bloodied, vest torn, rifle slung across my back. I didn't wave, didn't blink, didn't need to. Chief Mathis was the first out, helmet in one hand, rifle in the other. He stopped when he saw me. Just stared. Jesus, he muttered. I'm fine, I said, though my breath hitched and my legs wobbled. Behind him, NATO medics moved in. Weapons up, eyes wide. I handed Mathis the enemy comms unit. Then the sniper's rifle. Then a blood-smeared tablet, terrain scans, payout logs, encrypted files. They paid the contractors to stage the ambush, I said. Someone with reach wanted me erased. Mathis stared at the cracked plate on my vest. The Trident badge still gleamed, smudged but unbroken. They shot you point blank, he whispered. Missed the heart, I replied. The medics approached, cautious like I might vanish if they touched me. One of them reached for my arm, then paused when he got close. It wasn't the blood. It was the way I stood, like something that shouldn't be upright, like a woman whose body was broken, but who refused to fall. "Sir," the medic whispered to Mathis, thinking I couldn't hear. "That wound. How the hell is she still on her feet?" Mathis didn't answer, just looked at me like I was a ghost with teeth. Behind him, the rest of the surviving team from the convoy crested the ridge. Some limping, some helping each other, all stunned. They froze when they saw me. Even the ones who'd watched me take the shot to the chest. Even the ones who'd heard Mathis call it in. "Commander down." Now they just stared. A few crossed themselves. One of the Polish GROM operators muttered something under his breath. Another translated, quiet and reverent. "Heart of steel." "No," Mathis said, voice low but firm. "Heart of iron." I didn't respond. Didn't need to. The name spread like wildfire before I even boarded the bird. No one said it to my face. They didn't have to. It lived now. Out there, passed from one breath to another. Iron veins. I climbed into the helicopter. Sat hard on the floor. Blood soaked through the gauze wrapped tight around my chest. My breath came shallow. My head spun. But I was upright. That mattered more than anything. Mathis sat beside me, helmet in his lap, watching me like a man still trying to decide if I was real. He finally said, "You dragged yourself out of a kill zone, ran a solo op bleeding, laid traps, outflanked a sniper, and walked out with proof that could crack half a command structure." "Yeah," I muttered. "Hell of a Tuesday." He shook his head, half a laugh escaping his lips. The rotor screamed. The forest below blurred. I didn't look back at the farmhouse. I'd turned it into a monument already. A grave they built for me, that I refused to stay in. The flight out was quiet. No one spoke. Not the medics, not the pilots, not even Chief Mathis. The chopper hummed like a steel heart trying to match mine. I kept my eyes on the floor. Not because I was avoiding the others, because I was reading names. Names written in blood, etched in memory. Vickers, Rojas, Damon. Some of them made it. Some didn't. I hadn't seen the final count yet. But I knew. War always takes something. The bird touched down at a NATO forward operations post 2 hours from Vaslin Ridge. Sandbags, concrete, searchlights. Safety in the absolute barest sense. I stepped off the ramp, boots dragging, vest slung over one shoulder, enemy gear on the other. The medics tried to escort me. I waved them off. I didn't want the stretcher. I wanted to walk in. Every step proof. Every bruise a receipt. Inside the ops tent, a dozen people stared as I dropped enemy radios, the sniper rifle, and the stolen intel onto the table. Then I looked the CO in the eye. "They weren't militia," I said. "They were hired. Paid to bury a story." The CO opened the encrypted tablet. His eyes widened at the logs, routes, payments, drone feeds synced to private servers. It wasn't just betrayal. It was orchestrated. I turned to Mathis. "I want names," I said. "Who signed off on Reed? Who cleared that convoy route? Who scrubbed the drone uplink before we rolled out?" "You'll get them," he said. "But after the hospital." I nodded. Barely. As I walked out, someone muttered the name again. Iron veins. It stuck. And I didn't correct them. Because maybe, just maybe, a legend is what it takes to outlive an execution order. I stayed in the hospital tent for 2 nights. Fractured ribs, cracked sternum, bruised lung, blood loss. No one could believe I was still breathing. They monitored me, fed me through tubes, whispered when they thought I was asleep. She should have died in that blast. She took a sniper round to the plate. Who walks away from that? I didn't correct them. Because I hadn't walked away. I'd clawed. I'd bled. I'd burned the map they wrote for me and drew my own line in the dirt. The nicknames spread past the camp, across divisions. Iron veins. Whispers became radio call signs. Call signs turned into files. Official ones. Someone sent me a sealed folder the morning of my discharge. Inside was a black and white photo of me in the farmhouse, snapped by one of the enemies before they left me for dead. My eyes were closed. Blood everywhere. Still. Cold. The caption, "Kia, confirmed." I smiled. They'd filed the paperwork before I even stood up. A second file was thicker. An investigation, internal, classified. The kind of report that didn't see daylight unless someone pushed. It traced bank accounts, cross-referenced drone logs, connected Reed's deployment to a PMC with shell company ties. It named names. People high up. People who would burn for what they tried to hide. My job wasn't over. Not yet. Mathis met me at the airstrip as I prepared to redeploy, not to rest, but to testify, to brief, to finish what I started. You sure you're ready for this? He asked. I looked at the sunrise, at the place where a farmhouse once stood. I've still got breath in me, I said. And as long as that's true, I've still got fight. He nodded. No salute. No orders. Just respect. The plane lifted off, wheels leaving the dirt. My fingers curled tight around the trident badge still buckled to my vest. The same one that took the round. Cracked but whole. Like me. As the clouds parted, I thought back to the silence before the ambush, the way the wind felt wrong. The instincts tapping out messages in my chest. That wasn't paranoia. It was truth. And now the world would hear it. They left me to die because they thought I was just a name on a roster. What they got was a reckoning. Because hearts like mine, they don't stop. They reload. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.